Is that, what is that? I think that's like the end of the Mario when he... Anyway, g'day, Stu here from UAV Futures, and today, well, we're going to be doing something a little bit different actually, because I've already actually built this one, and I didn't think I was going to get around to reviewing it. It wasn't on the cards, but then you know what, I'm having such a blast, so what we're going to be doing today is reviewing the RS90. Now this is an awesome indoor little quad. It comes in at something like 78 grams, so it is super tiny. I've got a build guide on my channel that I'll leave somewhere down here, somewhere you can click on if you want to see how to build one. But what we're going to do, we're going to stick it on the bench. I'll show you what's in it. I'm not going to pull it apart because this one took me a little while to build, but we'll stick it on the bench. I'll show you what's in it, and then show you some flight footage and sort of talk about it. Anyway, let's get started. Rightio, so here it is. Here's the, excuse me, here's the RS90, and look, this is a little bit different because usually I have these parts laid out on the bench and I give them a review, but in this case, we're going to be giving it a bit of a review because I never planned to do a review of this, but I'm loving it so much, I thought you guys might like to know. Now, straight off the bat, let's weigh this thing and let's talk about why it is so awesome. Alright, so just turn my scales on here, hurry up and here we go, it's coming in at 78 grams. So this is probably the lightest build I have ever done. So if you're worried about flying this around near people or pets or bumping into things in your house, maybe you don't want to wreck some of your walls or anything like that, definitely consider this because it is so light it's not really going to make much damage at all when it crashes. It is a 3D printed frame, and that's something people need to be aware of. So and I think you can print these things out yourself, but from what I've read on the forums, it's actually quite a difficult frame, or quite a difficult print, I guess. I don't know much about 3D printing, but it is meant to be considerably difficult for your printer, so unless you know what you're doing with your printer, definitely expect a bit of trial and error. Now in my one, I'm rocking some 1105B 6500 kV motors from Rotor X, and I gotta say, it's an absolute gun. This thing absolutely hammers when it is outdoors, and that's rocking using some of these little props. I don't even know what these little props are called, but they are about 2.5 inches or something like that, so they are considerably smaller than anything else that I'm used to. The flight times, I'm getting around 5 minutes, I would say, when I'm flying around the house, maybe between 5 and 7 minutes, and when I'm thrashing it outside, I'm probably getting down to like 3 or 4 minutes. I really like this little camera mount that I have in this one. There's lots of different mounts out there, and there is a couple of different versions of the RS90, but this camera mount that I talk about in my build, it is so simple because all it is one little piece of plastic with a little pin keeping it in place, and you just slide your camera into the back of it. Now this quad's a little bit different because the props are on the bottom and it is pushing itself around rather than pulling itself through the air because your motor is going to be on upside down, so you need to be aware of that when you're building. And I guess the biggest thing that people need to be aware of, and look, this was a little tricky even for me, this is probably the tightest build I have ever done. Now, there's not too much space in here at all. In this little section right here, you have to fit in your flight controller, your receiver, your 4 ESCs, anything else? Oh, everything except your VTX, which I've just glued in the back here. It looks pretty gross, actually. Now, speaking of the VTX, I've got mine in at the back here, and that is something I wish that was changed because you need to be a little bit careful on how you mount your actual VTX. What I've done, I had to actually cut my frame open and glue mine inside there. So I wish in this print there was the option to select what size sort of, I guess, space you want at the back, because not everybody's going to be rocking the tiny VTXs that come with it. This one actually came with a Hawkeye VTX and I've got to say that didn't fit either, and I didn't feel too good about ripping the pigtail off a Hawkeye because they're a great VTX, so I put this one in instead. But that's something to be considered maybe in the future revision of the frame if there was some different spacings at the back right here for different types of VTXs. Now, in terms of power, I guess you can run this thing on a 2S or a 3S LiPo, and it is an absolute powerhouse. This thing is insanely quick, so a big step up. If you're used to flying Hubsons or tiny whoops around, definitely be checking this out because this thing is very fast. Now, one of my favorite things to do with this quad is to do some little cheeky backflips, but I don't know why, and I think I like doing it line of sight and I like doing it when I'm flying it, but it just feels so good and it feels like you've got so much control or authority in terms of a backflip. And that's obviously because of of the spacing between the propellers, far much more than when you're doing a roll. So that is one thing to be, I guess, to consider. If this thing is awesome at doing little backflips, but rolls are a little bit more less predictable, I would say, or you have less control when you're doing a roll. On the bottom here, you have a carbon fiber plate, and that is really important for keeping it strong and rigid, especially when the top is just this 3D printed nylon right here. And they come in a variety of thicknesses. What I put on the 1.5 millimeters, but this one you can also get if you want to make it even lighter, the 1 millimeter version. I really think for the small amount of weight saving, I don't think it's worth putting on the 1 millimeter. I really think you're going to break that eventually, and you know, have to swap it over for one of these anyway. So just go with one of these in the first place. Now, to keep the build super neat and super tidy, it actually has these channels right here that run through the middle sort of parts of the frame, and that's because you really need to worry about where your wires are going, because you have no room for any stray wires because they're going to get cut by props. So that is a great feature for this little quad to have, how they run out through here. You can see the channels just here, and also some for the back of the VTX. What people recommend doing is using some actual thinner wire, even thinner wire again than what I've got, to make it even more snug and even lighter. But overall, I gotta say, this thing is, if you're really after an indoor flyer, definitely check this out, because this thing has been getting so much more stick time than I had originally planned. It's been an absolute blast to be flying it around, and Charlie loves chasing it, my dog loves chasing it around. So if you're after something with a little bit more grunt than maybe your brushed micro, or something a new, a bit of a challenging build, definitely check one of these out, because you won't be let down. I love flying mine. It's probably got, it's getting a lot of stick time actually at the moment. So there it is, there's my review of the RS90, so hopefully that helps some of you guys out there. Definitely consider this one if you're after a tiny indoor flyer. I know I've been having tons of fun flying this thing around, and it's getting a lot more stick time than I first anticipated. Great size and awesome weight as well, so you don't have to worry too much about crashing it into things. Anyway, subscribe for more FPV related content, and as always, happy flying!